Welcome everyone to Grape Finance's weekly AMA. I'm Nikki and I'm here with LB as we've been for most of last year. Welcome to the new year. LB, how are you?
Hey everyone, thanks for listening in. Good to see you all. Or good to hear you all, I guess. Or
Yeah.
no, we'll be doing the talking, I guess.
Good to see your icons and your names in the
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, and sometimes the chat. I mean, the chat will always come on at some point. However, this time I don't know if we're going to have much time considering the live chat because there are actually quite a lot of questions.
Okay, good.
Which is good.
Mm-hmm.
Gives us something to do. Let me find it again.
Not waft on.
Oh wait, I'm in the wrong server. That's why I couldn't find it. Okay, here we are. This is a recurring question, so let's get it out of the way, maybe in a short form. Semaj, 68651. For some reason, that needs to be in his name. I own a lot of grape note. What's going to happen to the grape notes?
Well, I mean, I think we discussed this. The most likely thing we're doing is moving to a press. On that one, probably the soda press. Because I want liquidity rather than I'd rather have the grape be liquidity grape than loose grape. In other words,
And by that you mean grape in a liquidity pool, or?
yeah, in the soda press, I guess is the answer there, rather than it being a grape single press.
Right. So they're going to be merged into the press system, and then they will help stabilize the coin, the token. Okay, moving on to Peter Flea. Hey fam, thanks for always answering my questions and wish you all an epic 2023. Well, thanks for asking them, and the same to you and everyone. Let's hope it's a cracker. Question re soda press. If peeps keep selling and I keep compounding, do I get their share? Been compounding once per day for a month plus now, maybe two. Also, if X grape 10x's down from this point. Oh, down, 10x is down from this point. Is there anything left to claim in these presses? But still here, fam. Cheers.
Yeah, well, it's the presses work on shares, the share based. So it's essentially there'll always be something in there for you to claim. In terms of the underlying whatever it is, the LP, that's part of the press. The dollar value fluctuates, obviously. So even if people, as you mentioned, if they're claiming, then you're getting their share, but you're getting the tax on their share. In other words, it's increasing the value of your share in terms of the underlying of how much LP that you can claim for your share. So it's. And with compounding, you don't necessarily need to compound regularly. The compounding will allow you to stay in the pool for longer. But it's more to do with claiming. If you claim, then you're removing your shares from the pool. So if you want to maximize the pool and the value you get from the pool, well then you probably don't want to claim until you want to claim all of your shares. Because the shares accrue value over time. So the more shares you have in there, the better it is for you, because you'll benefit from everybody else's actions over time. But if you're claiming, then you're reducing your shares in the pool, which then reduces the value that they'll accrue over time. And the compounding allows you to stay in the pool and not be assassinated, essentially. So yeah, as well, there'll always be the presses are more sustainable in that they always have a guaranteed 90% that you're absolutely minimum going to get in terms of the LP that you put in. And it's always likely going to be more because there's always a time from when you deposit to when all your shares are available. And in that time, there's usually actions of other people, claiming, depositing, which then increases the value of your shares. So you generally will always get more than 90% back on the LP that you put in. And the longer that you're in, the more you get.
Yeah, basically. So basically the advice is to stay in as long as possible until you start getting out. Like, if you're not going to get out yet, then just stay in. This sounds strange, but it just means that don't get out in phases. Just stay in until you get out. And the other question is also, if Grape 10x is down from this point, is there anything left to claim in these presses? Well, if that happens, which I think will be very unlikely because we are already at such a low and not really going down anymore, it seems, lately. But the things are always possible. But if that kind of thing happens, yeah, you still get to claim what's yours. It's just if you try selling it for for some stable, you will get less for it, but there will still be the same amount of tokens to claim.
Yeah.
I really think it's unlikely, but yeah, well, who am I, right? I think it's unlikely that grape goes down a lot. I see that wine has risen a bit, though. That's good.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Neat Grape says, "Hey, laughing Buddha. A long while back, you mentioned." Yeah, this is a meme. Anyway, laughing Buddha. A long while back, you mentioned that it may be possible to inject some revenue into the rewards pool of the presses, and I was wondering whether that was still on the table. If grape nodes got migrated to a press, would you still want to print straight into the pool when above PAG? And speaking of PAG, are there any plans to bring back the PAG health campaign wine rebates in the near future, or are they sitting on the sidelines for the time being?
Yeah, they're sitting on the sidelines for the time being, where the DAO doesn't have any more, what's it called, DAO emissions. The DAO emissions end, and this month the farm emissions end. So we don't have any more wine to sort of that we get daily. In other words, so we need to buy it from the market, which is good for wine holders then. But in saying that, it means we can't really do this rebates right now. We'd want the price to be higher as well for that to kind of work, and we'd want it to be earning some revenue for people to actually want to get it at a discount too. So that's probably on the back burner for now. And it also depends what we do peg wise with that. We'll probably do the rebates anyway, because the rebates are a great way to essentially raise funds without doing a direct pre-sale or something like that. So that's probably something we'll do in the future. But for now, they're sitting on the sidelines. And let me just, what was that again?
The rest of the question was about injecting revenue into the rewards pool of the presses. First question should be then revenue from what? But what?
Yeah. Well, I think the presses are probably the least likely to get a revenue boost before anything else. You know what I mean? Like, we'll give revenue to wine first before we give it to the presses, because the presses are kind of, they don't really need extra revenue. It's like a bonus thing if we do it, in other words. So right now that's probably unlikely. We'd give revenue to wine first before the presses, unless they really need to be incentivized. But they do kind of do that on their own just in the mechanism and how they work. So yeah.
All right. So the presses probably aren't gonna get revenue injected until maybe in sometime in the future when all the other things already have had their share.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, the presses also just take care of themselves a lot. Like they're their own system, and they're profitable in their own way. Okay. Neat Grape also says, "Hey, Loosebolt, I saw that CK Sync isn't planning to launch on mainnet until later this year, and I was wondering whether Vinium going cross-chain will need to wait for their launch, or whether we can begin expanding before then. And there are other chains on, and are there any other chains on the horizon? And do you have a rough time frame for when we may see them?"
Yeah. So I think originally ZK Sync was supposed to have their mainnet end of last year. But you know, when you're developing large software like that, there's always going to be some delays. But so I think it's mid this year is when they're thinking of doing the actual public mainnet for actual users to use. So I mean that's fine. That's not an issue. It's not as if we're going to just wait for them to go cross chain. Although we will obviously want to launch on there prior to them going live, basically. We were developing on the testnet there, but they recently did an update where they decreased the block size by quite a bit to the point where we can't actually deploy the lending protocol on the chain without splitting it up into multiple contracts, which, you know, then we have to deal with a lot of different logic changes and how, you know, they talk to each other across different contracts, and we're probably going to have to get an audit for that too, which is just I don't know, it doesn't make sense really, and it doesn't make sense because they will eventually increase that block size to what it should be once they're, because basically right now it's a test net, it's a mainnet. The testnet is the testnet, but then they have the mainnet which only they're using for security testing, basically. So it is really kind of like a very, you know, rough testnet environment, and they're changing things all the time. But they will definitely increase the block size so that you can actually deploy a full lending protocol on there, because otherwise the chain would be completely useless. If, you know, like half of the apps that people would deploy on there, you couldn't deploy on there. You know, you'd have to have some roundabout way of chopping them up into like 30 different contracts, which makes no sense. But they'll sort that out, and I'm not sure when. Probably in the next few months, and then we'll deploy on testnet there, then on mainnet when they launch there. So that's fine. That's all good. But in the meantime, we've deployed to Arbitrum, testnet, and mainnet very soon there as well. And then we'll probably go to BSC and probably ETH too after that. And then whenever ZK Sync comes around, then we'll go there too, obviously. But yeah, we're still going cross chain anyway, so we'll probably go to Arbitrum next. That's where actually we've already deployed.
Are you looking for minimum sizes before you're deploying, or you're just deploying the protocol and have it take care of itself? Or how do you look at that?
What do you mean by minimum sizes?
Like, do you want, for example, when you started Vinium on AVAX, you made sure that there was something deposited out of all of the tokens available.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe I thought maybe you want the platform to grow a certain amount so that you can take away those deposits and put them somewhere else to make sure of the same thing on the other chains or whatever. Or are you just going to deploy it and make it take care of themselves and have people deposit and then see what works?
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of both. I mean, right now we've only incentivized, like we've only put money into the isolated pools because, you know, it is an X-Grape pool. I'm not really expecting too many people to put funds in there unless the API gets really good. So that's why we have seeded that directly. But the main pools we haven't seeded, other than just smaller amounts like $10, $100, etc.
Oh, really? I
Yeah.
thought that was seeded a little. But it's nice to know that it wasn't actually.
Oh, I think I put a little bit in the USDC actually. USDT actually. But it would have been a very small amount. It actually may just be the $5,000 in there. It may be less actually. I've totally forgotten now. But it's a small amount, a very small amount.
Okay.
But yeah, so in other words, that's also another reason why we're keeping some cash on hand so that we can seed some of the pools on different chains. But part of the strategy is to kind of launch multi-chain, not worry too much about the liquidity in the initial stage until we sort of finalize the cross-chain mechanism, and then we can launch the token to incentivize liquidity on all the chains. Is the idea. So, and then once we have that, then we can easily get liquidity. So, right now we're just going to go forward, release on the multiple chains, have that base infrastructure ready, and then we can go from there.
All right, that makes a lot of sense, especially if by the token you mean the generated stablecoin, which I assume, or do you mean the Vinium token, which is a reward token?
Well, for liquidity directly, what's going to incentivize it is the Vini token, and then stablecoin wise is the benefit of it being low interest. So, but you still need the other liquidity to be able to utilize the platform well. So we still do need some sort of incentive token.
Right. Got it. Okay, then we move on to Dirk Oz or OZ. I don't really know what it is. I think Dirk Oz.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's been there from the beginning, which we're very happy about. A lot of people actually, and so grateful for that. Anyway, he's saying, "Hey, Lost Bopper Rockstar." Some community members are holding G-bonds and marking off the calendar with imminent changes to emissions on the 27th of January. What ramifications can we expect for G-bonds?
Well, I mean, it doesn't affect G-bonds really too much, because there's no emissions on G-bonds now anyway. So I mean, it basically functions the same. Yeah,
it's just a bond which can be returned for Grape when Grape is above PAG. I guess if Grape gets transferred into something else at some point, if that happens, then G bonds will be counted as Grape. I think that would be fair.
Yeah.
Other than that, they are G bonds. That's why every time they were mentioned, actually, we always are like, yeah, G bonds can get you a really good yield when Grape soars high above PAG, but be careful because they are illiquid once it's below PAG. And that has been for about half a year now, which sucks, but probably isn't an eternal situation. But it could be a really good return after all at some point. Anyway, moving on to Neat Grape again, saying, "Hey, Lunar Baboon, the vineyard is only a few weeks away from ending altogether." Or the vineyard, I don't really know how to pronounce that. And I was wondering whether you could share us, whether you could share us, whether you could share with us what the plans for after January 27th are. Is everything still going to be incentivized in some way? Like Grape or Grape Mim LP, as Vintage, Wine Mim LP, Grape Wine LP. And where will those incentives come from? Is there going to be a party? Speaking of wine emissions ending, do you have any updates around revenue share for the wine stakers?
So they're ending in a couple of weeks, and essentially right now the incentive is the presses. They're going to continue on as they continue on, at least in the immediate term for incentivization of the pools. We're looking to when Glacier launches, we'll do some hopeful bribing there if we can get on there in that capacity. With some other, their actual token incentives. I think that may take some time though. But so they won't be incentivizing the farms. So you'll have to migrate to the press, at least in the immediate term. There won't be any other incentives immediately. And we're going to monitor that. And there's a couple of things we can also do depending on, whether it makes sense or not. Like we can, I know solidly DEX is a really good for incentivization, but there's none on AVAX, unfortunately. But we do have our token on FTM and Binance, which do have solidly forks. So we can. Yeah.
It might have been a long time ago, but I do remember Swapsicle offering to maybe incentivize some things. Have you spoken at all with them about that?
So
I think that was in summer.
Swapsicle did actually have a incentivization for us in the beginning. They may be open to that continuing forward, at least in a sort of subsidized role alongside the presses. But that's not something that we can control.
No, of course not.
So that's
I just noticed, speaking on their AMA a couple of weeks ago, that they still have us in high regard, as in they're still very thankful to us for us being one of the first to jump aboard their train. So I think
good
we have
guys.
some, yeah, definitely. I like them.
Yeah, well, I'm having a meeting with them shortly about VNM, and we'll discuss Grape 2 there. So there's a possibility we can get some incentives there as well. But it's completely up to them, obviously, and what sort of emission structure they have and what they can offer. But yeah.
So basically, what you're saying is that for the LPs, the incentive is the Grape presses the presses themselves, actually. So for all of those LPs, and for wine holding, it would be the revenue sharing mostly, and of course, as soon as Grape will get back to PAG, some Grape printing, but you wanted to tone that down a lot, I gathered. And for Grape itself, of course, the usage of Grape and the fact that you can now borrow against it, which means you don't have to sell it. So those kind of things sort of are it, right? Am I missing things?
That's like the main ideas, right? We also, I don't want to incentivize single staking Grape or Grape wine either. So we want to focus just on the Grape meme and the wine meme. These are the two most important ones. And as Vintage as well also has the press that will continue, and we have majority of the liquidity of Vintage meme anyway, so that's fine. And we do have some liquidity for Grape meme and wine meme too, but most of it's still community owned. So and a lot of it's already in the press anyway. So it's people that are in the farms. It's up to you what you want to do. You can either put it into X Grape and borrow against it, or you can put it into the press, at least in the immediate term.
All right. Then we move on to Durchreiche. Hello, I have a question regarding the mint of raisin. My assumption is that the raisin price should be around 1-to-1 with the grape price. Is that correct? And when I mint raisin via Vintage MIM LP, which is shown as the cheapest option, it seems like 100 raisin cost me around circa 10 MIM, while the grape price is at 0.06. So basically, his question is, hey, this doesn't make sense. Is this correct?
It's a rough. Obviously, it's its own token. It doesn't have a liquidity pool, so it doesn't have a price based on that liquidity pool. But it is minted using several tokens, so obviously you can derive the value from that. And the price of those tokens obviously varies. I'm talking about the LPs and MIM itself, and they vary in relation to how much raisin you can get for those. And I believe they all have their own prices too. So I believe the vintage MIM would actually be the cheapest for you to mint raisin with, and MIM would be the most expensive right now. But it also is the most convenient, and vintage MIM is probably maybe the least convenient. But you get the best deal for it. But they are also subject to change. I'm probably going to do a rebalance on all those soon, so they all kind of tie up together to the same price. But that's not an automatic thing, which is why you have deviation from that over time. So if you min raisin regularly, you may want to double check the prices of all the LPs and obviously choose the cheapest one, or whatever is most convenient. The convenience to price that you feel is best for you.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Back in the day, about a year ago, when Wonderland was still a thing, you had this bonding mechanism, and you could choose, depending on what they wanted most in their treasury, you could choose which kind of token you were going to mint with.
Yeah.
So that's I guess just a thing that you can adjust to. All right. Mark Larms is saying, "Hey, Nikki and LB, I hope you are well. Wine to the moon. I hope you're well as well. And yes, let's get wine to the moon. That would be great. We are obviously in a bear market, and also could be a longer bear market compared to previous crypto bear markets. Yeah, it's there's a lot of negative talk in the financial world at the moment. I know developing Grape isn't free or cheap. So, what is the current plan for the sustainability of Grape, and what is the current status of the project development fund? Thank you for all your help." I think to start with, of course, there are a lot of costs, and I think you'll say something about that. But there's also a Grape community, and I think there is a sort of unspoken agreement between the team and everyone involved that for the last amount of time we aren't really bitching about getting paid. At least that's my own take on it. Like for the last half year or so, there's not been any personal profit for me. Which I'm okay with because I believe in the future. So I still invest my time, and I would say, hey, this will eventually come back in a great way. And until that time, let's just move on. So that also presses the development or sustaining, so to speak, of Grape. It presses it downward because it's not like you have people with contracts who say, hey, you promised me 3K a month, so where's my money? That makes it a lot easier, but still the question stands. So
yeah, it's we have obviously funds in the treasury, mostly in cash, that we use to pay. Right now, it's being used to pay things that we technically can't offer for free, like or things that, as Nikki mentioned, for the last sort of few months, well, the protocol hasn't, well, we haven't been above peg. The protocol hasn't been making money, and therefore, pretty much the team has been taking, the wine emissions, but mostly not selling, and at the same time not taking any sort of other monetary stuff for their work. It's the same for me, and we'll continue. Obviously, I continue development regardless. But for things that we have to actually pay using real money, like sometimes we need to outsource some development stuff. Then we have some treasury for that. Things like the hosting, and sometimes some art and stuff like that we may need to outsource. Things that we need to outsource. I try to keep it to a very minimum, to what we actually really, really need and what would actually bring value to the protocol. Marketing too. So that's also why we haven't really done marketing, is because it is a cost, and it's actually a ridiculous cost. And so, and a lot of the times it can be a terrible ROI on that cost too. So we want to
Yeah. I liken money in general to energy, and if we look at energy from a physical point of view, or a physics point of view, I should say, then energy is either something moving or potential energy, which is sort of like a spring which can be released, right? So moving energy would mean a money flow that we would have, and we had that in the first part of last year, or the first and second part, I should say. We had a money flow, and we could use that and use that to get our momentum, or continue our momentum, I should say. And right now, that money flow, that energy, that has stopped, and has stopped for quite a while now. But we still have this money stack up, which is potential energy. However, that is like a spring. You can only just release it a few times, and after that, it's gone. So right now, basically, it is choosing the right moment, choosing the right situation to actually get a momentum going again, so that that potential energy can actually transfer into a money flow again, like a moving energy. And but so far, as you are saying, you're just being careful so that you retain a lot of that potential energy, and just not spend too much in a market that might just gobble it all up. And I think that's very wise.
Yeah, exactly. We need to be a little bit cautious now. So we can have a bit of a runway, keep our costs really low. And right now it's a community effort, basically. With some outsourced stuff, like I have a developer that works on the nitty gritty of the lending platform. He needs to be paid in dollars. So that's really the actual only cost, aside from hosting, which hosting and the Cloudflare CDN, and like various things like that, which to be honest aren't too much in dollar value. So that's good. And the only other expense that we'd have otherwise is, or big expense we'd have otherwise, is marketing. So that's why we kind of want to wait and push that when that's makes the most sense to do that.
Yeah, and also we kind of touched on it a little bit before the AMA. Right now, there's far less sense than there has been in selling grape. So because you can just form it into X grape and then borrow against it. So with that happening, I think we are either at or very close to the bottom. And as such, I think we should have a general move going upward again. And then once that is going on again, then stuff like marketing or exposure and everything will make a lot more sense again, because people can see, hey, these people have passed their bottom and are actually on the way back again. So yeah, I think that will happen. Will be good. But moving on to Neat Grape again saying, hey, Leaf and Brad, how did the Corker Mint go? Yeah, how did it go? I think it went pretty well, right? When is the
Yeah.
next one for our aspiring master winemakers?
Yeah, I think it did well. I'm pretty sure they all sold, or the auctions all ended, with someone else winning them, which is good. And I think most of them sold for around, there was a range between like 2.3 AVAX to like 3.5 maximum. So there's an average around, 2.5, 2.7 AVAX per corker. And there's still a reasonable amount left that I minted on purpose. So I think there's a few different ways we're going to do this now. I think we will do another auction very soon, similar style, but I think also another way where we allow people to or do it in a raffle, essentially, where you can put up tickets through things like Vintage or magazines, for example, and have the chance to win them, or win quite a few of them. So that's another way that we'll distribute the corkers.
Cool. So it went well, and more is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Good things, good things. Need raising Galactic Mod is a Galactic Mod. Oh, the Galactic is probably a protocol. Anyway, Need raising says, "Hey, Last Bear, can we maybe add a way to change your name on the leaderboard for a vintage fee or something like that?" Wait, your name? Oh, add a way to change your
Yeah.
own name, I guess. Like, hey, can we change our own name? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool. I think I'm just thinking how to like do that in some sort of automated way, and we can definitely do it in a manual way, because the UI is obviously not on the chain, so it reads. I'm pretty sure we use an external database for that, and it reads that, and then each address we can add a name to. But it would be manually in the first spot in the first trial. But we can implement that if people want that. That seems like a couple reactions to that thing
Yeah,
too.
sounds like a cool thing.
It's a cool little thing, yeah.
It is. All right, then we move on with Saint saying, "Hey, Levi Bones, what you got cooking up your sleeve?"
all these names, man. It's crazy. Very creative.
It doesn't end. It doesn't end. It will never end.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've got a couple of things cooking. I think I already mentioned that we deployed to the Arbitrum testnet and just about to do to the mainnet. So that's something that's coming very soon for Vinium. Is Arbitrum launch, followed by a couple other chains, and then integrating those chains together in a nice way, nice UX, so that it's kind of seamless is what I really want to do for that. So it's definitely yeah, something that I think is kind of needed in lending. There's a lot of lending protocols that are obviously cross chain, but a bit of a pain to use. And I think we can fix that.
All right. So you got some cool things cooking up your sleeve. Moving on to Derek Oz again. Hi, life balance, and this is he says, is that even possible? Now you're getting to my kind of questions. Like, is life balance even possible? You awaken the philosopher in me, man.
Yeah.
I would say yes. I think life balance is possible, but the current society makes it a bit hard.
Mm-hmm.
But so you need to free yourself first from the society, and then you can get a possible life balance. That's just my take. Anyway, Are you able to indicate how the treasury investments in DEX, Frozen Walrus, EMP, and trading bots, etc., have performed since they began?
Yeah, well, most of our investments actually essentially liquidated through OTC a while ago, months ago. I wasn't comfortable with the market. We needed some funds. We didn't have revenue coming in, so I needed cash. Not tied up investments. So essentially, liquidated these stakes in OTC fashion. So we didn't sort of hurt these protocols. But the Frozen Walrus, what we did specifically for that is split the LP so we can capture the USDC side, and then the Walrus side is I turned into X Walrus and gave to the noders essentially. So the noders were subsidized through that, but we kept the USDC side to that. We also had some AVAX. We had 2,000 AVAX that I purchased around sort of the low to mid 20s. I thought that was a great price, and
Well,
it was a good price. I held that for a little while, but I liquidated that to in the mid 20s as well. So that was actually a really good decision because it would be worth half of its amount now. Basically, I just haven't been comfortable with the market, so I've just we need cash in this sort of market. You need cash because it's the most liquid, especially for a protocol that isn't generating incredible revenue, but still has some expenses. We need cash to cover that, and if we're stuck in investments and the investments are down, 50%, well, you don't really want to sell them because just because you need liquidity.
So basically, you've been doing what most investors have been doing, which is convert to cash and
we're going to be in cash, which is good. It's a good position to be in. We've saved ourselves a lot of money doing so. We would be in a much worse position if we didn't. And we still have the bots though, because the bots are in stablecoins anyway. They trade in stablecoins, but they are illiquid in that we can't get access to that capital very quickly because a lot of the time they'll be in a trade or something like that. We can't just be like we need the money now and that sort of stuff. So we can't allocate too much to it. But I'm looking at, because we have about 10 grand in there, and I'm looking at doubling that soon. I think we have made about $1,200 from that, which is about 12%, and that's including the fees, because there's a management fee of that as well. So essentially you earn more than that, but we including the fees is about 12%, which is pretty good on stable coins.
That is certainly not bad.
Yes.
Over how much? How many months?
That's about that one's been going solidly for about 2 months. So that's
12% in 2 months is really good, especially in this kind of situation.
Yeah, it's been a good chop as well. Yeah, so it's not too bad. So that's why I'm looking at doubling that, but we can't put too much in there because we do need some. We do need to remain liquid. I gotcha. Most sort of liquid investments, like you do some farming, something like that, on stable coins, we're looking at, we may be able to push it to like 15% if we do some crazy convex, LP or something like a leveraged LP or something like that.
Well, stay careful.
Exactly.
The careful is good. The careful is good.
That's the idea, right? Because you risk all your money for 15%. I don't know.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Then the second question I think is sort of answered. Like, are there any plans for treasury investments in any other areas? So right now, this would mainly be the bots, right?
Yeah, we'll double that. It's about 20 grand. But the rest we'll keep liquid, so that we can seed some pools when they need to be seeded, and pay for ongoing costs. Yeah, at least in the immediate term.
Oh, all right. Sorry, I had my mic up. All right. Will the treasury revenues, assuming there are profits, be reinvested, distributed, or a combination?
Well, I'd like to distribute them, but I mean, like we can distribute $1,200, but it's I mean, I think in the immediate term, what I'm thinking of doing is we're going to keep that reinvested as part of the bot fund, until we get to some sort of stage where we actually generate some revenue that we can distribute. That's reasonably sustainable, and we can also match it with actual Vidium revenue too.
Mm.
So yeah, not immediately. I've heard some suggestions that we should do some sort of raise or something like that, where people can actually provide funds that we can then invest, and then distribute. That would make sense, but I don't know if people. I don't know if everybody wants that. I don't know if that's a thing. Right now, we're kind of focused on just a couple things that we want to solve. So maybe that's something that we'll do in the future.
I don't know. That doesn't sound too bad. I mean,
Yeah, I mean it doesn't, does it?
some of these bots are not always easily available for the public. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're an in-between situation, like, hey, we just pull a lot of capital and then altogether we invest in these bots or whatever, then it might actually be a cool thing. But basically what you're saying is, hey, if we profit, you profit. Like, hey,
Yeah.
if we've got a lot to share, then we will, because we actually have, especially with all the airdrops that were there in the beginning, and when things were going well, there was so much shared amongst the
Mm-hmm.
community, and yeah, we'll definitely do that again, right?
Yeah,
It's
of
just
course.
it's just that right now there is not that much to share, but
Yeah.
it's a good question though, and
Mm-hmm.
it keeps us on our toes. All right,
Yeah.
moving on to Chenko. Once the wine emissions end, what will be the engine to making X grape price go up? It's very specific to X grape.
Yeah. Obviously, the main thing now is the wine emissions, but you still always get some bonus from people entering and exiting, like minting and selling it, and transfers of it too. So, if there's any arbitrage arbitrage between the different pools different LPs that we have, that's like automatic increase in price too. Obviously, it's not going to be 100% APR or something like that, but it's at least something that's going on in the background that you can borrow against too. And then you obviously have trading volume anyway. But the good thing about Xgrave is that we can also very easily add to that contract and add, by add to the contract, I mean that we can, actually we can create LP, add it to the contract, and then therefore increases the total value of increases the APR that way. Because we don't mint any, it's like we can supplement the pool, is what I'm saying. As we may, if the APR drops really low, we may supplement it in that regard, where we actually create LP, drop it in there, and then burn the extract that we get specifically, so that it increases the LP value for everyone else. So that's the thing that we can do
Right.
too. That's
By
inbuilt,
burning
which is nice.
by burning the X grape, I hope you mean burning the grape that's in it, right?
Yeah, well, the X-Grape token itself, so that the backing, the ratio of the token supply to backing increases.
Right, I get it. Yeah. So actually, there are a lot of mechanisms keeping the APR of Xscrape up. One of them falls away, but the rest is still there. And basically, what is important for Xscrape, I would say, but that's just my take, is that the APR should remain higher than the APR of borrowing against it, like than the borrowing fee of borrowing against it.
Definitely.
So, as long as that's the case, I would say everything's fine. But that's a take, depending on your view. All right. Any ETA on Grape MIM nodes migration?
Yeah, I want to do that ASAP. I know I've mentioned that, but we also, it also needs to be done with alongside the Grape itself, and then put into the soda press in a way that is actually fair, which is really the difficult part. And then as well, it also depends what we're going to do with Grape, and if we need to migrate, well then we'll need to migrate the press too. So I mean, there's a couple things in the background. It's not just like we can migrate straight up. I know a lot of people have been asking for it, and it has been a little bit delayed. But it's a pretty tricky thing.
Okay,
basically.
So you've got some hurdles to overcome, and as soon as you overcome them, it will be done. Okay. Moving on to Dirk Oels again, saying, "Hey, leading brand," which I like this one. This is good. Which superpowers would you like to attain?
That's pretty cool. It'd be nice. It'd be cool to it'd be, I don't know, it'd be interesting to know the future. That'd be pretty interesting. It'd be very powerful, but it'd be also pretty intense.
Precognition. Yeah, that's a really cool superpower. Yeah, I get that one. I think I would like remote viewing. That's a cool one
that's
too.
Cool. Yeah.
Remote viewing and maybe reading minds or something like that.
That's cool.
Anyway, cool question, but also cool too. Leading brand, I like that one. Moving on to Big Wappuccino, saying, "Can wine revenue sharing be set to a more fixed time frame? Maybe it was set against a certain TVL figure for Vinium, or even a percentage against it, so it rises as income increases. And what will single stake Grape give you once we hit the 27th of January?"
Yeah, well, single stake Grape is going to give you nothing because the emissions will end. But that's fine because it's kind of the pool doesn't really do anything anyway for Grape other than kind of just like temporarily put it out of circulation, which is fine. There's something, there may be some selling there, but that's something that is like you need to rip the band-aid off, you know what I mean? And kind of get it out of the way. So that's what happens there anyway. But for wine revenue sharing, like the maximum time that it would come about, like you can look in the multi-sig for which is where we collect all the Vinium tokens. We have like $5, maybe $10 in there in total, spread across that. So we can airdrop that, but it probably costs more in gas. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a waste of time. I don't know. So that's why we're not doing that right now, and we'll let that build up, and then we can airdrop that. And when that happens, that's going to be entirely dependent on TVL, but also the length of time that TVL is there, and the APRs or the borrow APRs on that TVL too, because we don't get paid on deposits. If you have a lot of deposits but no borrows, well then the revenue is zero. We need borrows to pay the revenue as well. So the maximum time would be when we roll out a couple of the chains that we're going to roll out, BSC, Arbitrum, ETH2, and then alongside the Vinny token when we launch that, which I believe once we launch that, that's pretty much guaranteed to bring a lot of TVL over, because that's what liquidity incentives do, and then therefore that's going to generate revenue without doubt. So there's like a maximum time for revenue to come out for it to be worthwhile. If we actually have revenue that's, if we have built up like $1,000 of revenue in the meantime, then we'll distribute that. But if it's $5, then it doesn't really make sense to distribute that.
No, it doesn't. All right, I get it though. That's a good answer. Okay, then we move on to Neat Raisin again, saying, "Hey, large buys. What is something that you aspire to achieve for Grape Finance this year? Is there anything you want to truly accomplish for Grape as a whole this year? Not speaking from a price perspective, but more on a goal perspective." Good question. Like this one.
Yeah. Well, I think what I want to achieve this year is kind of take it away from being. I want to keep keep it a fun memey project, because that's kind of what I like about crypto, and in general we have I think we have got a really good brand, and I think that's something I want to keep and grow into. But I think one thing where I want to take it is something to really be a respectable project, not just like a fork of Tombs, for example. So I really do aspire to kind of make a project that is respected as something that has actually kind of innovated on something in a really good way. And we have kind of done that this year, but I'm not satisfied. I think that there's some, we're still kind of tied to the like fork nature of Tomb, in other words. And I think I want to take it to like a next level where you can kind of be proud to be associated with the Grape name, in other words. So, and there's a lot of
We're
ways we
very
can
proud.
do that, but well, you know what I mean. It's
Yeah, I get you.
I think we've done a great job, but I think we can do better. And I think one way to do that is kind of being a really unique, innovative, problem-solving project that is more sustainable long term. They can kind of last. We don't have to rely on a bull market to
Yeah, that would be
revitalize
great.
us. Yeah,
That would be great. And I think lending and borrowing is a good way that direction. And of course, it would be good to expand on that. Okay, then we've got a question from Rug Magnet. Don't bring your rugs here, man. Don't do it. Don't set your magnet to 0, please. Okay. Any chance to do a pop-up box when one wants to sell Grape, telling them that they can borrow against Xgrape on Vinium and the features of how Xgrape helps pack campaign. So sort of information in your face, like, hey, are you sure you want to sell? You can just borrow against this. I think that's a great idea. Like I'm all for that because it's just information, but it could be information that can stop people from selling because they might not know. So
yeah. I think we can add something on the site. I don't know where you claim Grape from the nodes, or you claim Grape from the soda press or something like that. To kind of showcase, here's what you can do with it, other than selling.
Yeah, because Neat Grape also says like, hey, it's sold through Dexes that we do not own. Of course, that's
Yeah.
true, but there are buttons on our site though. They're like, hey, is buy your grape here. So
Yeah.
we could do something with the information. And it would be cool. I think Taz has been a while away for a bit, right? Because he does the front end, but now
Yeah.
I
He's
saw him
been on
around.
holidays. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of days ago, I saw him around again. So maybe he has some time to get to it. But then again, if he's just returned from holiday, he's probably busy. Anyway, yeah, sounds like a great idea. I kind of like it.
Yeah, we'd have to
Then
do
Need
it on
Raisin.
our site. Is our
Yeah,
answer? It need to be on our site. Like where you actually go to sell it. I mean, we couldn't do it there, but on our site we can do whatever we want.
yeah, and we should. All right, then Need Raisin says when Anotica update.
Yeah. We'll do that this week.
Okay, this week. Nice. Need Raisin says I should probably be paying large brain for all the alpha he has given me. I think this is a good revenue source. So LB is just giving all kinds of alpha, and people just throw money at LB, and then that could be used for the protocol. Yeah, I support this. This is great. Let's do this. All right, do the math. Thank you, Nikki and LB. Great response as well. Thank you for being here and asking your questions. Need Raisin says need invoice and cash is king. Yeah, just a lot of fun here. Let's do it. Hashtag grape notes unlocked. Neat Grape also has an idea about his superpower. I think right now my dream superpower is never needing sleep or requiring sleep and always feeling well rested. I mean, shifting sounds cool and all, but just no more sleep. I kind of like the dreaming and the feeling of sleep, but to
Sleep
each
is
their own.
nice. Yeah.
It's nice to be sleeping, but I get it. Like if you don't need it, but you can still do it. I get that. It's a nice superpower too. We've done a great job, and no one has asked about GLP collateral or other fun additions to the isolated pool. Is that something to look forward to when we join Arbitrum mainnet, or even just now, right? Because GLP also exists on AVAX, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, and I mean, there's a couple cool, yielding LPs on AVAX that we can use. That we probably will add in. We just need to ensure the Oracle. I mean, I need to recap the Oracle for GLP because they do a little bit different. Curve actually has decent Oracles already inbuilt, so they're relatively easy to put in.
There are a couple of cool pools on Curve that I think should be very safe to use. I mean, for example, I have some in USDC.E pool.
Oh yeah.
Why would we not be able to borrow against that, right? or
Yeah.
or even put it up in some kind of way that other people can borrow it.
Definitely.
So that kind of thing should not be. I mean, maybe I'm seeing it as too easy, but I think a lot of people might be. Like, is that even that easy, or is that hard in some sense? Does it require a lot of thinking, anyways, or how does that work?
Not too much. On Curve's all right. We just need to develop more the infrastructure in the back end. Like I need an Oracle for it, which will use the Curve Oracle to get the price, and then I need to double check we kind of need to reconfigure the what's called liquidation bot specifically for that LP so that it can route through, break it open, and pay back a loan. It's just like an extra step in there. So it's not too much. It's not really too technically challenging. There's just a couple of things that need to be done for it. And GLP needs a specific Oracle which is a little bit more tricky. They also have the actually they may have changed that recently. The cooldown period, which is a little bit of a pain in the ass to deal with. But the main thing with GLP is the Oracle, because there was that protocol on Arbitrum that did get exploited using it. They don't have a good Oracle like Curve, which is manipulation resistant. So
All right, so that one is a bit tricky because of the Oracle.
Yeah, I need to double check, because I know some people have done it. I need to double check basically how they've done it, because there's a few ways you can do it, but how we can do it in a way that is not doesn't add a lot of technical debt and ties in really nicely with the requirement for Vinium, basically the rest of the pools.
All right, great answers. And now we come to the end of the AMA. I do have a question of my own, though. I've noticed that after our tragedy in the summer, we kind of all lost our enthusiasm a little bit. However, I've also noticed that over time, over the months, this has slowly been coming back. And as such, now that we're in a new year, I just would like to ask you, as the colleague I've been working with for almost a year now, like, hey, how do you feel about going forward? Are you getting your enthusiasm back? Are you back in the game? Or yeah, how do you feel in general?
Yeah, well, I think it was a good year, but it was a tough year too. Well, I'm talking about last year, obviously, and I think a lot of lessons learned. And I spent some time after, towards the back end of the year, kind of just thinking through a lot of things and reevaluating things, and taking the time to kind of, because the first half of the year was really fast paced and just basically non-stop. Like I didn't even have time to think, fast. Which it's actually crazy how fast paced it is. You don't have time to think. Like it's actually crazy, and I like thinking through things. You know what I mean? I actually just like thinking through things. So it's kind of something that I missed out on the first period of the year, which kind of also probably led to some bad decisions and some mismanagement and things like that. And so I think towards the back end of the year, it was a lot of finalizing some things, and then thinking about reevaluating and thinking about things, how they stand and where they can go to, and also the general DeFi market too. I've done a lot of research on the DeFi market and upcoming narratives, new protocols, and basically where it's going to go, so that we can have like a forward picture of what's upcoming, so that we can basically tie into that and use it for our advantage, in other words. And that ties into Vinium and what we're going to be doing forward, and how we can tie all of that in to upcoming, like what's actually going to be used in DeFi in the next 5 years time. Because 2 years ago, I mean, it was basically the start of DeFi, basically. Like 3 years ago, you didn't even have Uniswap. It's pretty crazy to think about that. You didn't even have Curve either, and they're like cornerstone. Weird. Yeah, they're basically cornerstone DeFi protocols now. You didn't have them at all 3 years ago. So this space moves incredibly fast, and you do want to spend the time to think and actually at least understand where things are going, so that you can be on the front foot, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I do agree with you a lot. Like, this is such a young space, and as such, a lot of people are going to make mistakes. And well, we obviously made our mistakes. But I there's something that I think. I think many people will say this, but I've heard it said by Kevin O'Leary, who might not be the greatest guy right now, but you know he might still say good things. And this was that, well, if you're looking at the value of a person when they are an investor or a CEO or whatever, that they're an entrepreneur in whatever form, then don't just look at their successes, but also look at their failures and what they have learned from that, because that also increases their value. And as
Mm-hmm.
such, I think we've had a year in the past year, um, where where well, there have been a lot of successes, and
Mm-hmm.
there have also been failures. And I think it's great that, well, we were forced to take the time a little to stop and
Mm-hmm.
think, and to reassess ourselves and see where
Yeah.
we want to go. Because right now I feel a lot more calm than
Mm-hmm.
I did, for example, in June or something, because I was stressed as hell back in June.
Mm-hmm.
And right now I feel a lot of calm, and I'm just like, okay, we can do this. Let's just move forward. Let's just, okay, I'm gonna make some videos. Okay, this is cool, and I can
Mm-hmm.
actually have some fun with that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that took some months as well,
Yeah. Yeah.
like to get the fun back into it.
Yeah.
Uh, but
Yeah.
I'm happy that happened, and
Exactly.
um, I'm happy that's also happening for you. And well, Chenko is also happy that I actually asked that. That's good. Even though we all know LB is a clone. Well, it might be, but then again, you know, this
A
man
clone.
worked like a machine back in those times that you were talking about, like April, May,
Mm-hmm.
June. You were working like a machine. Like there was hardly ever a time that I could chat and you would not be online. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I wondered that, like, where you got the energy. So I was not surprised at all that maybe in August and September and October you were a lot less available. I was like, you were still available. You always answered within the day, but
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't as extreme as those first months. Um, so
Yeah.
I think you actually got back to healthy a little.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit more
Get back to your
balance.
human.
It
Yeah,
is
some
kind of
life balance.
important. It's true. No, it definitely it's true. There's in the beginning, we kind of just jumped into it and realized, wow, there's a lot of things to do. We need to we wasn't actually prepared for how many things needed to be done. And so
Yeah.
you're kind of starting on the back foot. Basically, you always needed to catch up, which means that you're always running. And it's not really it's hard to keep going in that environment. So
Mhm.
it's another thing coming back to the end of the year. We've kind of taken a step back and reevaluated, and we can actually put procedures in place so that we don't have to start on the back foot. We can actually start in a good position where we don't have to you know continue
Comfort.
running and then just get
Yeah.
exhausted. We can actually be more sustainable. In other words, is the main goal.
Yeah. Well, with that as a last word, or did you want to add anything before we wrap it up?
I think that's a good
That's a good ending. Okay,
good
then
ending.
that's
Yeah.
our ending. Well, thanks everyone for listening, being here, and asking your questions. Even those listening to the rewrap or the what's it called again? The recording. I always forget that word. So thank in whatever shape or form you're here. Thanks for being here, and well, talk to you next time.
Exactly. Thanks everyone. We'll see you next week.